Mr. Speaker, I beg to present for second reading a bill shortly entitled Firearms Amendment. Mr. Speaker, although today is a very joyous and happy day for us, particularly those on this side of the Honorable House, I am not very pleased to have to come to Parliament today to amend the Firearms Act, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the amendment to the Firearms Act by this singular measure, is not the only means by which the government intends to fight crime, Mr. Speaker. It's a series of measures, Mr. Speaker, but we believe that because of the increase in the use of firearms, we ought to strengthen the laws against the illegal use of firearms, Mr. Speaker. But the amendment to that legislation is not a means to an end, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are several factors that have to be corrected in this country. We do not manufacture firearms in St. Lucia. At least we don't manufacture serious firearms. The question is, Mr. Speaker, how do these firearms enter the country? How do these firearms enter the country, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, it's very sad when you have the information, when there's information, Mr. Speaker, sometimes on how these firearms enter St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. There is something endemic in our system that would allow people to facilitate, for the sake of money, the illegal importation of firearms that cause hymen, that cause death, that cause destruction, just for a few dollars, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, no matter what it costs me, during my tenure at the people of Cashews East, and by extension, the people of St. Lucia, and by extension, my cabinet colleagues, I will use every effort to stem the corruption in the system that allows these firearms to land into this country. Mr. Speaker, I'm not making any accusations. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone or any group of people, Mr. Speaker. But it can't be by coincidence. It can't be by coincidence, Mr. Speaker, that so many firearms enter this country, and it is said from the United States. It can't be coincidence, Mr. Speaker. It can't be coincidence. And I know that the members of the Customs Department are trying their best, but I urge them to be as vigilant, because, Mr. Speaker, when a firearm enters the country illegally and is used by a bandit, you never know who the bullet will hit. You never know, Mr. Speaker. Your family, your children, your spouse could be somewhere and they get hit by a stray bullet, Mr. Speaker. So even if we may believe that it may not reach us, we must understand that you never know when you'll be the unfortunate one and you will get struck down by a bullet. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the Customs Department, the members of the police force, to use their best efforts. And I know the system is not perfect. I'm the first one to tell you that we need a lot of things. We need many things in the police. We need more equipment, we need more vehicles, we need everything. We need more money, I think, Mr. Speaker. But I want the members of the law enforcement agencies to understand that what you're doing is a labor of love for the protection of themselves first, their families, and by extension, the people of St. Lucia. So moving forward, Mr. Speaker, I hope that with the strength of this legislation, Mr. Speaker, the police can feel that they have the required backing and the system can support them. So this scourge of illegal firearms, this scourge of shootings that happen in this country, we hope it can come to an end. But as I said, this is just one of the measures, Mr. Speaker, that we are taking to try to curb this menace, Mr. Speaker. It's not pleasant for us to have to stand here and to have to pass that legislation, where people can be sent to prison for life for some offenses. It's not pleasant, Mr. Speaker. But I want to warn, particularly the young people of St. Lucia, who may be tempted to carry guns for somebody, to go on a business, to carry a thing there. Do not allow people to use you for their own vanity. When you are caught in the firearm, the bossman is not the one who will pay for it. Do not allow anybody to give you anything to carry for them. Don't allow this, because you are the one who's going to be in trouble. You are the one who's going to languish in jail because of the increased penalties, Mr. Speaker. There is a better way. Carrying a firearm from point A to point B may give you $200. Mr. Speaker, if you escape, the $200 will finish. But if you're caught because of that legislation, you may end up spending the rest of your life in jail, Mr. Speaker. It's serious legislation, as they say on the streets. That's not a joke. That's not a joke, Mr. Speaker. Everyone should listen and read on the penalties that can happen because of this legislation. That is not a joke. This is serious business. This is serious business, Mr. Speaker. It's serious. It's very serious, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we are amending the Firearms Act, Mr. Speaker, and the clause 5 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, we are creating a firearm licensing board, the board. Presently, Mr. Speaker, firearm licenses are given solely by the Commissioner of Police. This new act, as is the case in most other countries of the region, Mr. Speaker, there is a firearm license can only be given by a board which comprises the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Speaker, the Permanent Secretary, the Ministry responsible for National Security, and 3 persons nominated by the Minister, approved by the Cabinet, who are of high integrity and able to exercise good judgment in fulfilling the functions under this act, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I'll propose that the chairman of the board be the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Speaker. So we are the Commissioner of Police to chair the board, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this means that the firearm license, there'll be a broader section. More people are going to be involved in the issue of firearm licenses, and not be the sole discretion of the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Speaker. As I said, it's not new to St. Lucia. This happens in most other countries of the region, where a firearm license is given by a board, Mr. Speaker. So the application process will be the same, but the issuance of the license will be done after a board meets to issue the license. Not new, happens everywhere in the region. Clause 6 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, section 15, the firearm dealer license, is amended to increase the penalty for a summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and to increase the penalty for conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years for failing to keep a proper register of firearms and ammunition. So, Mr. Speaker, the only people who can legally sell firearms are people who have a license to sell it. So if you know they have any business where man selling gun, that's not a business for to get involved in. The only people who can legally sell firearms, Mr. Speaker, if you have a firearm dealer license. Nobody else can sell firearms. They must have a dealer's license, Mr. Speaker. And if you don't have a dealer's license, you are caught, conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a maximum of 25 years. 25 years, Mr. Speaker. So the business of selling firearms must only be done by somebody with a license to sell it, Mr. Speaker. Clause 7 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, Section 16 of the Act, converting a firearm. Now, Mr. Speaker, what happens is sometimes, supposing you have a regular firearm, there are several individuals who have the skill of converting a 48 into an automatic. You understand? So whereas it would be, you could get rapid fire from that regular gun by making some adjustments to it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know there are some people who have that skill of converting the firearm, Mr. Speaker. I want to warn them that the penalty for that has been increased for conviction or indictment to imprisonment for maximum term of 25 years for shortening the barrel of a shotgun or converting anything into a firearm. 25 years imprisonment if you try to create an automatic from a regular gun. So you're not supposed to sell it, you're not supposed to convert it, Mr. Speaker. The business of firearms are only for established dealers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Clause 8 of the bill, Section 21 of the Act, firearms import or export, Mr. Speaker, is amended for summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and to increase the penalty for conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years for importing or exporting a firearm or ammunition without a license. So if you import a firearm without a license, or you import ammunition without a license, Mr. Speaker, and it doesn't mean that if it's only one firearm, you won't suffer the same consequences, you know. You could get the same thing for one firearm. So the best thing to do is to stay away from it, Mr. Speaker. 25 years imprisonment for importing or exporting a firearm or ammunition without a license. 25 years imprisonment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Clause 9 of the bill, a new Section 21A, prohibited weapons and ammunition, Mr. Speaker. That's a new clause that is inserted in the Act to provide for the prohibition on the use, acquisition, possession, importation, manufacture, or supply of a semi-automatic and automatic weapon and ammunition, and for penalty on semi-conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and for conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of life for an offense committed under this section. So if you commit an offense with an automatic gun, if you think you are a soldier, you want to have an M16 or AK, and you commit a crime, Mr. Speaker, that ammunition is only to fight war. It's not for you. If you found of it, Mr. Speaker, you get a term of 10 years. And if you commit an offense with it, Mr. Speaker, you can get a maximum term of life. A maximum term of life, Mr. Speaker, if you commit an offense with with an automatic weapon, an AK, M16, or semi, the kind of ammunition that we may have on the streets in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. Commit an offense with it, you can get imprisoned for life. Mr. Speaker, Clause 10 of the bill, Section 22 of the Act, prohibition against possession without a license, is amended and to increase the penalty for summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and to increase the penalty for conviction on indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years for the possession or control of a prohibited weapon without a license. And Mr. Speaker, even licensed gun holders must remember to pay their licenses. Because if you have a license, if you have a gun and you haven't paid the license, the gun becomes unlicensed. So you have to make sure the licensed gun owners must pay the licenses, Mr. Speaker. And people who believe that they can carry guns on them without a license, even though they don't intend to commit a crime, even though it is for their own protection, if you do not have a license, do not get a gun. If you don't have a license, do not get a gun. Because if you're found with a gun and you sent to court, it's possible, Mr. Speaker, that you may be convicted and you may be charged a maximum fine of $50,000 for a maximum term of 10 years or to both. And if you commit or to both, Mr. Speaker. So again, this is serious, and I urge all St. Lucians to listen, to read, because as they always tell you, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So you cannot say you did not know. So the way is to be on the straight and narrow as far as firearms are concerned, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Clause 11 of the bill, the Act is amended in Section 24, prohibition against carrying a firearm or ammunition in a public place, Mr. Speaker. For carrying a firearm or ammunition in a public place without a license or while drunk or under the influence of drugs, Mr. Speaker, summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or both. Mr. Speaker, again, there's a custom when people have illegal firearms and they on the block, they pulling their piece out and they're showing it. By the very act of pulling out your illegal piece, Mr. Speaker, you can be sentenced to 10 years imprisonment or fined $50,000. So first of all, you should not have an illegal piece. And if you have an illegal piece and you show it in public, you can a maximum fine of $50,000. And if you're drunk, we'll see it. Mr. Speaker, these are serious fines. These are serious, Mr. Speaker. Warning the young people of St. Lucia, do not allow your life to go because of bad friends or because you want to prove a point, Mr. Speaker. Clause 12 of the bill provides for an amendment in Section 26 of the Act, possession of firearms with intent to injure, to increase the penalty for a summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and to increase the penalty for conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of life for the possession of a firearm with an intention to threaten or endanger life or property. The possession of a firearm with an intention to threaten or endanger life or property, Mr. Speaker, if you are found guilty, Mr. Speaker, you you may be sent to prison for life. So if you go at a man's home and you try to hold him up with a gun, or in a store, and you're caught and you're found guilty, you can probably go to prison for life. Clause 13 of Mr. Speaker, section 27 of the Act, use of a firearm or imitation firearm with intention to commit offense, is amended to increase the penalty for summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and to increase the penalty for conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of life, or in addition to any other penalty a person is liable under the Act for use of a firearm or imitation firearm with an intention to commit an offense. Again, Mr. Speaker, serious punishments if you hold up somebody, or if you even, what they call, you flam somebody. You understand? You understand it, Mr. Bradley? Yeah. If you flam a man, you pull a piece and you flam him. That is, you find yourself in trouble, Mr. Speaker. If you know, again, tell the comrades on the streets, Mr. Speaker, don't have a firearm, and if you have one, don't flam it. Because if you flam it, once you flam it, you have a license, you are in trouble, Mr. Speaker. Stay away from firearms, even though an imitation firearm. So if you have an Amos gun and you pretend that it's a serious gun, you're in trouble. Mr. Speaker, I hope that for the Christmas season, we do not allow any imitation guns to be imported in this country. Mr. Speaker, Clause 14 of the bill, Section 28 of the Act, restriction on sale of firearm or ammunition, is substituted to provide for the offense of manufacturing, selling, transferring, lending, repairing, or modifying a firearm or ammunition, and for a penalty for summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and for conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, if you rent a firearm, you know, for us, has gone to block and say they're renting a piece. If you rent a piece, Mr. Speaker, you can go to jail for 25 years. And the person that rented for you will also go to jail. So don't rent. Don't try to rent. Because if you rent it, even though it's not yours, you cannot say to the police that belongs to that man there. You're the one who, you have it, so you're the one who is going to pay the penalty, Mr. Speaker. Stay away from firearms. Stay away from firearms, Mr. Speaker. Clause 15 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, Section 29 of the Act, restriction on the sale of ammunition, is substituted to provide for the offense of removing or altering the markings of a firearm or ammunition, and for penalty for summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and for a conviction and indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years. Again, Mr. Speaker, if somebody offers you a firearm and they say to you, the police can't trace it because they've removed the serial number. Sometimes on the block, Mr. Speaker, you can sandpaper the serial number and they tell you the police cannot find it, Mr. Speaker. That's wrong. If they catch you with a firearm where you try to erase the serial number, Mr. Speaker, or you try to alter it, Mr. Speaker, you can get imprisonment for 25 years. Clause 16 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, the new section 29 is a new section, is there, 29A, restriction or exposure for sale or transfer and possession of a firearm, and 29B, these are new sections, prohibition on disposing or destroying a firearm for ammunition, are inserted in the Act. to provide for the offense of exposing, possessing, disposing, or destroying a firearm or ammunition for a penalty for a semi-conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and a penalty for conviction on indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years. So, disposing of a firearm, so once they can prove that you're the one who disposed of it, Mr. Speaker, once they can prove it in the court, you can go to jail for 25 years. Some water, please. Clause 70, Mr. Speaker, of the bill, a new section 41A, prohibition against illicit trafficking in firearms or ammunition, is inserted in the Act to provide for penalty for conviction and indictment to a maximum fine of $150,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years, both for trafficking firearms or ammunition. So the law has been strengthened. So if you traffic in firearms, that means if you trafficking in firearms or ammunition, Mr. Speaker, you can be fined $150,000 or imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years. Clause 8 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, Section 29 of the Act, power to stop and search, is amended to increase the penalty to a maximum fine of $15,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 2 years or to both for failing to submit to a vehicle stop and search by a police officer. So if the police stop you and you decide that you are not stopping, Mr. Speaker, whether you have a motorcycle, a bicycle, or a car, you refuse to stop, you can be fined $15,000 if you fail to submit to a vehicle stop and search by a police officer. So, if you're driving on the road, Mr. Speaker, and the police stop you, dutifully stop your car, put your hand on the steering wheel, and let the police do what they have to do. When they stop me, I stop. Sometimes when I drive myself and I get in a roadblock and the police stop me, I dutifully stop. And I say, officer, here's my license. He said, all right, go ahead, Pierre, go ahead. But I stop, Mr. Speaker. But you see, Mr. Speaker, no one is beyond the law. And I've said to every member of my family, you are not beyond the law. You can't afford to believe that you can be beyond the law, Mr. Speaker. You have to follow the instructions of the police officers, Mr. Speaker. Clause 19 of the bill provides for an amendment to Section 40 of the Act, search warrant, to increase the penalty to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum of 10 years or to both for obstructing or interfering for a police officer conducting a search of a warrant. Again, Mr. Speaker, some of us, when the police are involved in searches, we either get in between them, or we get them chat, or we try to obstruct, or we sit down on the evidence. Again, Mr. Speaker, if you do that, you can be fined $50,000 or maximum term of imprisonment for 10 years, Mr. Speaker, for obstructing a police officer in the execution of his duties. Clause 20 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, provides for an amendment to Section 47 of the Act, compulsory imprisonment, to increase the penalty to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years for a person other than a juvenile who uses a firearm in the commission of an offense including kidnapping and robbery, obstructing a police officer while exercising his or her duty, threatening or causing injury to the Governor General, a member of Parliament, a judge, or public officer. If you use a firearm, Mr. Speaker, it is compulsory imprisonment to increase the penalty to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years for a person other than a juvenile who uses a firearm in the commission of an offense including kidnapping and robbery. So again, if you hold up people in a supermarket, at their homes, Mr. Speaker, compulsory imprisonment for maximum term of 25 years. Clause 21 of the Mississippi Section 50 of the Act, inquiry by the appropriate authority, is amended to increase the penalty to a maximum fine of $25,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 3 years or to both in cases where inquiry into the purchase of ammunition is made and the person subject to the inquiry fails to provide any information requested by the appropriate authority or fails to appear before the authority if so required. So, Mr. Speaker, if you buy ammunition and you've asked where then an inquiry is made by the appropriate official as to where you bought it and you fail to comply, Mr. Speaker, and you're found guilty, the penalty is increased by $25,000 to $25,000 or to imprisonment, Mr. Speaker. Clause 22 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, a new section 50A is added. Controlled delivery of firearms and ammunition is inserted in the Act to allow the minister to enter an agreement to make arrangements for the controlled delivery of firearm or ammunition to identify a person who commits an offense under the Act, Mr. Speaker. That's self-explanatory. Clause 23 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, Section 52 of the Act, general penalty provision, is amended to provide for penalty for summary conviction to a maximum fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a maximum term of 10 years or to both, and to increase the penalty for conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a maximum term of 25 years for offenses committed under the Act on which a penalty is not specified. So if the penalties are outlined there, if you commit a crime that the penalties are not, the offenses are not there, it's called a general penalty provision, Mr. Speaker. So your maximum term of 25 years if an offense is committed under the Act for which a penalty is not specified. 24 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, Section 23 of the Act, regulation is amended by the minister to make regulations for the importation and sale and possession of air rifles, guns, and air pistols. The Minister of National Security can make regulations for the importation of air rifles and other sporting guns, etc., Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is very serious legislation. These are very serious offenses, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, I really want again to urge the young men and women, and sometimes the women, some young women carry the firearms in their purses, hoping that the police will not search them, Mr. Speaker. Do not carry, if your boyfriend loves you, he won't let you carry a firearm for him. Because the jail, there is no segregation when it comes to jail for firearm. It's an equal opportunity offense. If there is no gender bias when it comes to possession of firearms, Mr. Speaker. So again, Mr. Speaker, I am urging the young people in this country, do not allow any man to give you a gun to carry and say that the police won't search you because you're a woman. Don't, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying these things because I can feel, Mr. Speaker, what will happen to a young man or young woman at 20, 21 years of age to go to prison for 25 years just for the simple, what looks like simple, like just carrying a firearm from point A to point B. Everybody, and I hope that the Government Information Service makes these penalties known both in English and in patois, because as I said before, that is not a joke. I'm not saying it will stop crime. What I'm saying is these penalties, Mr. Speaker, are penalties that we would not like any young person to go through. The possibility of life imprisonment, Mr. Speaker, just for what may at the time seem like just carrying something for somebody else. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said, today is a joyous day for me and my colleagues, but I'm not very pleased to have to come in this honorable house, to have to ask this honorable house to pass this legislation, Mr. Speaker. But it's not an end, Mr. Speaker, but it's a means to assist us in the gun violence that's happening in St. Lucia today. And this is the first step, the first stage, the number of steps, Mr. Speaker. So we want to tell the young people again, the people who have the guns, and the people who encourage for profit, who encourage for money, who allow these firearms to go into the wrong hands just for money, for vanity, Mr. Speaker. Who allow, because they get involved in corruption in their jobs, just for vanity, just to be able to live beyond their means. They allow these firearms to come into this country. I want to urge them, for the sake of themselves and for their children, for the country, to stop it, Mr. Speaker. Stop it. Stop it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank...
Mr. Fireman, just a minute while we turn off the other microphone. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank members for their support, Mr. Speaker, for this amendment. It obviously is a very bold undertaking. I want to assure the Minister, the member for Choiseul, that the amendment for the Commissioner of Police being chairman of the board will be instituted in the bill itself. So it will be there. We'll call for an amendment, Mr. Speaker, so that the board will be chaired by the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the member for Kashisov, in speaking on the composition of the board, made a good point. How can one man be more transparent than 5 people? But Mr. Speaker, we come here sometimes and we sell ourselves short, and we say that politicians are their worst enemies. The member for Choiseul stands in this parliament and says that the cabinet, words to the effect, may not have the, I don't want to use the word integrity, to choose 3 members to put on a board, because, and we cannot do that, we should not do that, Mr. Speaker. He doesn't even have faith in a cabinet of ministers that are elected by the people of this country. And we must stop doing that, Mr. Speaker. We must stop. Because when we continue to do that, we always sell ourselves short. Right now, the power is in the hands of one individual, and you're comfortable with it, one individual, to give firearm licenses. You've been told that throughout the region, I know for St. Vincent, for sure, I know it was just changed in Trinidad for reasons which I will not say here, and it was changed. But you, just to score political points, make the point that we are doing something wrong in St. Lucia. And Mr. Speaker, the member for Mico couldn't help himself. Even in terms of speaking about firearms, he wants to juxtaposition it with the economy. But you know, I'm not going to that conversation. I'm not in the mood for that today. Today is a day when I want to celebrate and to thank God and the people of St. Lucia for their wondrous mercies. So I will not go into that debate today, Mr. Speaker. I won't go into it, because when you want to compare now, the times we live in now, where everybody, everyone, every government, for the first time, all governments are feeling something that they almost have no control over. You want to say that you want to blame somebody for that, or blame this government for that plight, and so we're not doing anything for people. Just today, you said you would never be able to give it. We gave pensioners a one-off payment of $500. The NIC, as part of a holistic change, will give We'll increase pensions, Mr. Speaker. We are increasing school support to people, to children. We give the one laptop computers to every child. You're saying that we doing that for people? I mean, I won't get involved in that today. Not today. Not today. Try again. Not today. Today you can't. You're not going to take me down that track. Not today. Not today. Because I know you're very happy to be here because you don't come. You know what your party does if you don't come. So you're going to. Not today. Not today. Not today. So we're not going there today. So today, let us bring the thing to a level, and let's behave and don't go there, because you know, anytime you open that door, when you open that door, you make me walk in and you make everybody else walk in. So don't do it. And today, relax. We'll have a drink of wine downstairs on your defeat and our victory. And we're going to be good. Okay, so that's right. So thank you very much for thank you very much for your support. And Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you that based on what the member for Cashew Central says, we are going to be amending the 10-year provision to 15 years, so that we can make sure that the punishment is, because we are told that a third, you lose a third. Anytime you go, there's a custodian sentence put on you, a third is taken off immediately. So 10 years, take out a free, it means 6 years. And then so you want to make it pellucidly clear that this government is serious about gun crimes. So everywhere there's 10 years, we're going to put 15, so when you take out a third, the person will at least serve a sufficient time for the offense. And again, I'd like to ask the GIS and the press, always let somebody take it as a public service announcement to warn the young people in St. Lucia, to warn them that this is serious. This is serious, Mr. Speaker. And in terms of the judicial process, you will know that we have a swift justice program where we are increasing the capacity of the courts in terms of dealing with criminal cases. And that is why we're going to be embarked on the construction of the halls of justice to ensure that we have the physical space to deal with these cases. And this is why, and I think the member Mikus for Castries South, who made the point that our history on support for the police and our fight against crime is clear. We have nothing to be ashamed of. We were the ones who built the most police stations in St. Lucia to date. And that is a fact. And we are the ones who are going to build the divisional headquarters in Grosley for the police. So we're not ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed about our fight. Remember when we built the Bodley Correctional Center? We were laughed at. We said, they told us we were being a 5-star hotel. Remember that? We're the ones who did it. And showing this, because we said that prison should be a place of rehabilitation. This is why we built a Bodley. And we were told we were building a 5-star hotel and we were wasting money. I remember somebody on the radio every morning as usual, blah, 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 blah. As usual. And these days, that noise happens in the morning and midday. But then that's not the point. So, Mr. Speaker, our history on fighting crime is clear. We were the ones who started we were the ones who employed more policemen than any other government at one time. We employed more policemen. Our crime, we have nothing to be ashamed of. We are not defensive when it comes to our fight against crime, but we temper that with social programs. And I recall the STEP program. The STEP program, we were criticized for the STEP program. Somebody even said, and you know, today's not a day for that. When we initiated the STEP program, there was an ad that said that we were allowing people to work and we gave them no toilet facilities. And I'm saying it in a very nice way. That was not how it was said, Mr. Speaker. Very indelicate, you see. You know, and you know, we are saying that we're wasting money on them people for our social programs. Remember that? When this Labour Party decided that we would have ensured that there was education, there was secondary school education for every child by building the 5 secondary schools and ensuring that there was universal secondary school education, we were told that we're mixing children from everywhere, with everybody. When we're told we get involved in affirmative action, when we found it necessary to upgrade the quality of life of people of lower income, Mr. Speaker, we are the ones who did that. So we're not shy, and we can stand and defend our programs. We can defend our history on crime fighting and social enhancement and upliftment in St. Lucia without fear or favor. Mr. Speaker, I thank you and thank members for their contributions to the Firearms Amendment Bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.